with the deep and awful nature of his undertaking. Suppose there should be any mistake, any scratching out? Young men are adventurous. It is extraordinary what they will rush upon, sometimes, without even taking the precaution of sitting himself down upon his stool, but standing leisurely at the desk, and with a smile upon his face, actually a smile. There was no mistake about it. Mr. Linkinwater often mentioned it afterwards. Nicholas dipped his pen into the inkstand before him, and plunged into the books of Cheeryble Brothers. Tim Linkinwater turned pale, and tilting up his stool on the two legs nearest Nicholas, looked over his shoulder in breathless anxiety. Brother Charles and brother Ned entered the counting house together, but Tim Linkinwater, without looking round, impatiently waved his hand as a caution that profound silence must be observed, and followed the nib of the inexperienced pen with trained and eager eyes. The brothers looked on with smiling faces, but Tim Linkinwater smiled not, nor moved for some minutes. At length he drew a long slow breath, and still maintaining his position on the tilted stool, glanced at brother Charles, secretly pointed with the feather of his pen towards Nicholas, and nodded his head in a grave and resolute manner, plainly signifying, "He'll do." Brother Charles nodded again, and exchanged a laughing look with brother Ned, but just then Nicholas stopped to refer to some other page, and Tim Linkinwater, unable to contain his satisfaction any longer, descended from his stool, and caught him rapturously by the hand. "He has done it!" said Tim, looking round at his employers, and shaking his head triumphantly. "His capital B's and D's are exactly like mine. He dots all his small i's, and crosses every t as he writes it. There ain't such a young man as this in all London," said Tim, clapping Nicholas on the back. "Not one. Don't tell me the city can't produce his equal. I challenge the city to do it." With this casting down of his gauntlet, Tim Linkinwater struck the desk such a blow with his clenched fist that the old blackbird tumbled off his perch with the start it gave him, and actually uttered a feeble croak in the extremity of his astonishment. "Well said, Tim! Well said, Tim Linkinwater!" cried brother Charles, scarcely less pleased than Tim himself, and clapping his hands gently as he spoke. "I knew our young friend would take great pains, and I was quite certain he would succeed in no time. Didn't I say so, young brother Ned?" "You did, dear brother. Certainly, my dear brother, you said so, and you were quite right," replied Ned. "Quite right. Tim Linkinwater is excited, but he is justly excited, properly excited. Tim is a fine fellow. Tim Linkinwater, sir, you're a fine fellow." "Here's a pleasant thing to think of," said Tim, wholly regardless of this address to himself, and raising his spectacles from the ledger to the brothers. "Here's a pleasant thing. Do you suppose I haven't often thought of what would become of these books when I was gone? Do you suppose I haven't often thought that things might go on irregular and untidy here after I was taken away? But now," said Tim, extending his forefinger towards Nicholas, "now, when I've shown him a little more, I'm satisfied. The business will go on when I'm dead, as well as it did when I was alive, just the same, and I shall have the satisfaction of knowing that there never were such books, never were such books, no, nor never will be such books as the books of Cheeryble Brothers." Having thus expressed his sentiments, Mr. Linkinwater gave vent to a short laugh, indicative of defiance to the cities of London and Westminster, and turning again to his desk, quietly carried 76 from the last column he had added up, and went on with his work. "Tim Linkinwater, sir," said brother Charles, "give me your hand, sir. This is your birthday. How dare you talk about anything else till you have been wished many happy returns of the day, Tim Linkinwater? God bless you, Tim. God bless you." "My dear brother," said the other, seizing Tim's disengaged fist, "Tim Linkinwater looks 10 years younger than he did on his last birthday." "Brother Ned, my dear boy," returned the other old fellow, "I believe that Tim Linkinwater was born 150 years old, and is gradually coming down to 25, for he's younger every birthday than he was the year before." "So he is, brother Charles, so he is," replied brother Ned. "There's not a doubt about it." "Remember, Tim," said brother Charles, "that we dine at 5:30 today instead of 2 o'clock. We always depart from our usual custom on this anniversary, as you very well know, Tim Linkinwater. Mr. Nickleby, my dear sir, you will make one. Tim Linkinwater, give me your snuff box as a remembrance to brother Charles and myself of an attached and faithful rascal, and take that in exchange as a feeble mark of our respect and esteem, and don't open it until you go to bed, and never say another word upon the subject, or I'll kill the blackbird. A dog! He should have a golden cage 6 years ago, as if it would have made him or his master a bit the happier. Now, brother Ned, my dear fellow, I'm ready. At 5:30, remember, Mr. Nickleby. Tim Linkinwater, sir. Take care of Mr. Nickleby at 5:30. Now, brother Ned." Chattering away thus, according to custom, to prevent the possibility of any thanks or acknowledgment being expressed on the other side, the twins trotted off, arm in arm, having endowed Tim Linkinwater with a costly gold snuff box, enclosing a banknote worth more than its value 10 times told. At 5:15 o'clock, punctual to the minute, arrived, according to annual usage, Tim Linkinwater's sister, and a great to-do there was between Tim Linkinwater's sister and the old housekeeper respecting Tim Linkinwater's sister's cap, which had been dispatched, per boy, from the house of the family where Tim Linkinwater's sister boarded, and had not yet come to hand, notwithstanding that it had been packed up in a bandbox, and the bandbox in a handkerchief, and the handkerchief tied on to the boy's arm, and notwithstanding too that the place of its consignment had been duly set forth at full length on the back of an old letter, and the boy enjoined, under pain of divers horrible penalties, the full extent of which the eye of man could not foresee, to deliver the same with all possible speed, and not to loiter by the way. Tim Linkinwater's sister lamented, the housekeeper condoled, and both kept thrusting their heads out of the second-floor window to see if the boy was coming, which would have been highly satisfactory, and upon the whole tantamount to his being come, as the distance to the corner was not quite 5 yards, when, all of a sudden, and when he was least expected, the messenger, carrying the bandbox with elaborate caution, appeared in an exactly opposite direction, puffing and panting for breath, and flushed with recent exercise, as well he might be, for he had taken the air in the first instance behind a hackney coach that went to Camberwell, and had followed 2 punches afterwards, and had seen the stilts home to their own door. The cat was all safe, however, that was one comfort, and it was no use scolding him, that was another. So the boy went upon his way rejoicing, and Tim Linkinwater's sister presented herself to the company below stairs, just before 5 minutes after the half-hour had struck, by Tim Linkinwater's own infallible clock. The company consisted of the brothers Cheeryble, Tim Linkinwater, a ruddy-faced, white-headed friend of Tim's, who was a superannuated bank clerk, and Nicholas, who was presented to Tim Linkinwater's sister with much gravity and solemnity. The party being now completed, brother Ned rang for dinner, and dinner being shortly afterwards announced, led Tim Linkinwater's sister into the next room, where it was set forth with great preparation. Then brother Ned took the head of the table, and brother Charles the foot, and Tim Linkinwater's sister sat on the left hand of brother Ned, and Tim Linkinwater himself on his right, and an ancient butler of apoplectic appearance and with very short legs took up his position at the back of brother Ned's armchair, and, waving his right arm preparatory to taking off the covers with a flourish, stood bolt upright and motionless. "For these and all other blessings, brother Charles," said Ned. "Lord, make us truly thankful, brother Ned," said Charles. Whereupon the apoplectic butler whisked off the top of the soup tureen